I was going to script this, guys, but fuck it, I don't care. I do not give a toss. I just want to get my thoughts out there. Everything is bubbling in my head, and I'm starting to get really, really annoyed about this current situation that's been going on Twitter the past, 2 days? Because the more I think about it, the more angry I become, because I realise more and more how this particular group of people on the right are net negatives, and how they should be set adrift in shark-infested waters to be consigned to their fate. Because, let's be fair, these people should have been long ago left to the dustbin of history. These people were finished in 2011, but thanks to the SJWs, and also thanks to some of their brighter prospects, younger prospects, being a bit smarter than these SJWs, have clawed their way back into some relevancy after falling into the abyss. But unfortunately, for those of us who actually believe in freedom and liberty, unlike these people, they're making everything difficult for us to actually get anything done because they're actually authoritarians. Unlike the SJWs, who are brazen and open about their authoritarianism, these people cloak it in the language of freedom and pretend that they actually care. They pretend that they care about freedom of speech. They pretend that they care about freedom of expression and reducing the power of the state. No, they actually want to increase the power of the state. And I'm talking, of course, about, I guess you could call them what you will, evangelicals, tradcons. I prefer to call them the retrograde right. And it's about time that those of you on the right, because I'm not on the right, I'm not on the left, I'm not even a centrist, because I'm above this stupid left-right paradigm. I don't care if that sounds arrogant. That's what I am. That's how I feel that I am. If you're on the right, if you consider yourself to be a conservative, on the right, less so a libertarian, because you guys aren't really as much affected by these guys, although by proxy you kind of are. You need to eject these people because they're net negatives. They are the hidden parasites in your midst that will, once the culture war ends, try and take over from you and throw you all against the wall and shoot you. Metaphorically speaking, of course. They will simply take you to the gulags because you were watching one too many Riley Reid videos that one time. Because all of this is about pornography and freedom of speech, and whether or not pornography should be banned. Because once again, Andrew Torba can't keep his mouth shut and was going on about how federally pornography should be banned. Whether or not he inferred this or actually said it outright doesn't matter, because that's what would happen in America if he wants his ban on pornography. He's not just talking about his website, because he's already banned it anyway on there, so who gives a shit? He's been advocating for the ban of pornography, the prohibition of pornography, and a lot of these other tradcons have come out of the woodwork to defend him and to also support him in this. We've had Lauren Chen, we've had various people from the Daily Wire, in particular right-wing Steve Shives. You all know who he is. Literally, look at his face. Tell me that isn't just the right-wing version of Steve Shives. And I'm not doing horseshoe theory. They look alike, they sound similar. What else is there to say? And they've been supporting this ban. Why? Because think of the children. Also, as Louis Levi rightly points out, to some extent, although I disagree with the full extent of this, I don't think it's the entire thing, it's fedora tipping to women. They feel like because women like Lauren Chen and Lindsay Shepherd and others like that find it icky and degenerate, that it should be banned. They're just simps, and they're simply pandering to these conservative women because they think if they pander to them, they will get laid, which, as we know, never happens. Just ask the male feminists. But of course, it's not all that, but I'll get into that in a little while as why I think it's actually something almost completely different. But I think the writing was on the wall like a year or two ago when the whole lowly question came around and me and Lou Levi were demonised for saying, look, this is degenerate, horrible crap, but it's just a drawing. It's not actually real. It's not going to harm anybody. Unlike the actual real thing where actual real children are trafficked into doing things against their will. And as we pointed out, this will be a slippery slope because once you ban this, then you will start banning normal, legal, consensual pornography for adults. And then what's after that? Well, whatever is obscene, because to the SJWs, it's problematic and God knows what else. To the retrograde right, it's what is obscene. That is their hate speech, obscenity laws. And America and Britain and other countries in the West, we do have obscenity laws. And just like hate speech laws, they're open to a lot of interpretation. These tradcons on the right, they want more obscenity laws. They can't get enough of them. Because it's only okay when they're the ones trying to socially engineer society and to get them to do what they want them to do. But when the left do it, oh, it's really bad. They shouldn't be doing that. Social constructivism. Postmodernist claptrap. And as I said before, they're trying to justify this mainly on a think of the children line. I mean, SJWs will do that occasionally as well, But the right really do love to use children as a means to batter their opponents. I would argue that they kind of started it and perfected it in the 80s and the 90s, and Greta Thunberg is the left-wing equivalent of that in many ways. And the argument is this: pornography should be banned because on the internet, kids can find it, they can stumble across it, and that can somehow lead them astray and become degenerate, decadent individuals with deep-seated issues. Basically, it's the Kuma meme. They want to become Kumas. Only, there's a slight problem with this. This can be addressed easily if parents do their job. If their parents do their job and monitor their children online, this isn't actually a problem. But the problem is, most parents are lazy, they're stupid, and they don't know what they're doing when it comes to monitoring their children. They either don't know or don't care, and then when they find out, they lash out, and rather than blame themselves, because this is what a lot of parents do, as opposed to blame themselves, they blame society, they blame the tech companies for a problem that they did not create. And so apparently it's down to Big Daddy State to sort all this mess out that they caused themselves. Because they can't take 5 minutes out of their so-called busy schedules, because one of the arguments is, oh, these people are just working families, they work 2 jobs, they don't have the time to set aside 5 minutes to set up a basic internet filter that doesn't even require much thought in doing. Yeah, apparently that's such a difficult task to do. Apparently you can't set aside 1 free day to do a 5-minute job. No, instead, the state has to come in, ban pornography, legal consensual pornography for adults, because these people do not want to do their own jobs. They don't want to take the individual responsibility that they ought to have, raise their kids in the proper way. No, instead, the state must do it for them. Do they know what that would entail? For example, if Trump had to do it, say Trump decided that he was going to ban pornography, he was listening to these people. He wouldn't anyway. But if he did, he would have to set up a Chinese-style internet filter and surveillance system to track everybody and see what they're doing, and then prosecute. Do you imagine how bad that would be? That's creating a communist/fascist state. It's China. Do you really want China? Because these people hate China. They dislike the communist, totalitarian dystopia that it is, but apparently it's okay when they do it. At least because, in their opinion, they're trying to stop degeneracy. The Chinese are also trying to stop degeneracy. Only they think the West is degenerate. These people think that men are degenerate. Normal men. Yes, because that's what I was referring to earlier. Because whereas, and there is an argument to be had that this is appealing to conservative women, in truth, really, this is demonizing male sexuality. These tradcons don't like male sexuality. They find men to be abhorrent and degenerate unless they are guided in the appropriate way. Unless they're Christian and they don't do this, don't do that. They don't take drugs. They don't drink too much alcohol. They want us to be perfect angels and be good providers, and then once a war starts, we go to war and we get killed. That's essentially what they believe. Unfortunately, most men aren't like that. We like to jack off to whatever porn that is legal and what we find attractive. And because of their religious upbringing or just whatever else it is that makes them think this way, that's abhorrent to them. We men need to be controlled. It's a disgust with male sexuality, and to be honest, it's probably something to do with males in general, because look at prohibition in the 1920s. That was started by the women's temperance movement. That was all about controlling the working man. Working class men who drank. There was this, I think it was probably a myth, that alcoholism was rife in these communities and was causing disruption and problems in the family. It was harming the women folk because these men were pissing away their wages on booze when they should have been providing for their families. Really, what this is about keeping men down in their place as just providers and as soldiers. That's literally what it is. It's societal control. That's why these people do what they do. The moral panics in the 80s and 90s were all about controlling teenagers and what they were doing in their bedrooms, even to the point of harmless video games, board games, and pen and pencil adventure type games, being accused of Satanism, things like that. It's all about societal control, and it's always to do with men. Some people say it's to do with women, but it's not really, because these people love women. They want to protect women. They want to make sure that women's feelings aren't hurt. They want to make sure they don't have anything bad happen to them. But what this has done is essentially exposed their hypocrisy, because now we know that actually they don't stand for unfettered free speech, or at the very least free speech that is not advocating for the death or violence towards particular groups of people or individuals. We actually see that they only use these as a means to an end to achieve their goals. And it just so happens to be some of our most favourite right-wingers, like Lauren Chen, are one of those type. And I hate to say it, But I warned you, at the very least not with Lauren Chen, I thought she was better than that, but with people like Lindsay Shepherd and Andrew Torber, Daily Wire, people like that, we warned you, and you didn't listen until it affected you. This is a surefire way to lose elections. These people will lose the Republican Party, the election in 2020 if they continue unopposed to spout this drivel, because normal people will see this censorious crap and think, oh no, we can't have that, and then the left will take advantage of that and they will basically say, hey, don't worry, we'll be your saviours, vote for us. And then next thing you know, you've got whoever will win the Democratic nominee as president. And it's things like this which is why the right continually lose culture wars, why they fail to conserve anything when they're meant to be conservative, because they have these pet issues, these pet hates that they can't let go. They cannot admit when they are beaten. Abortion is one of them. Pornography, like now, is one of them. Drugs is another one. Peter Hitchens recently going on about how the recent terrorist attack in London was not caused because the guy was a radical Muslim. No, it's because he smoked weed one time or something. He was smoking the herb. He was a drug dealer at one point. He was in a gang. That's what caused it. It wasn't his radical Islamism. It was his drug taking, or at least alleged drug taking. I don't know if he actually took any drugs, because drug dealers don't take their own drugs. That's a rule. But nonetheless, it's things like this that prevents you guys from actually getting anywhere and to try and put your stamp on society. You can't conserve anything because, one, you can't, anyway, for some of you. Your thought leaders are incapable of doing so. Moreover, they have these pet issues that society has long since moved on from. Nobody cares about pornography anymore, aside from the illegal aspects of it, which are, by the way, illegal. You know, we've agreed as a society that child pornography is wrong, that revenge porn is wrong, these things need to have contracts and consent needs to be given and these people need to be paid correctly and blah 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 blah. You understand. We've all moved past this. We've even moved past abortion and other things like that. Yet these people, they just cannot let it go. They can't move on to other issues that actually affect people. And the fact of the matter is, who do they think they are that they can dictate to me and to you what you can do with your own body and what you can do in your own spare time viewing what you want? Because the idea is that pornography isn't speech, because it's pornography. Even though a lot of porn, especially in the golden age of pornography in America, basically what pornography was, what a pornographic film was basically a film for adults. But unlike a Hollywood film which had simulated sex, which by the way must also be obscene, right, by their standards, even though it's not real, it's just had real sex. That was the difference. It had plots, it had storylines, proper dialogue and actors. I mean, for example, the film Taboo in the 1980s. That is a legitimate film. It is a film. It just has real sex. If it didn't have the real sex, it would just be a story about, I guess, incest, basically, or taboos. And there's been plenty of films about that in Hollywood and beyond, where there's been no sex at all, or the very least implied sex or simulated sex. And apparently that's okay. But a pornographic film is really bad for some reason, even if kids do view this somehow, which they shouldn't really be anyway, and again, the parents should be the ones trying to filter it. Because yes, some smart kids will find a way around the filter, obviously. Those of us who are technically minded have managed to get past filters before. That's not an excuse to ban pornography. And pornography is still speech, because it's still an expression. Even if it has no plot, even if it's just sex, if it's a compilation of scenes, that is still expression. It is simply an expression of our lust, our eroticism, fetishes, things like that. It is still free expression. It is still free speech. It is simply expressing the parts of humanity that you don't like. You don't like lust. You don't like eroticism. You don't like fetishes. I don't know why. It could be religious. It could be insecurity. It could just be you simply don't like it because you find it icky. Because they dare to put it on film for those of us to consume who aren't really bothered by it. But the fact remains is, it is expression. And it has been with us the moment we learnt how to think abstractly and draw things. Porn has always been there. It will be there. And when you ban it, you will create a black market. You will create an industry that will be forced to be criminal, and that's when you will start seeing the things that you don't like about it. You will start seeing proper exploitation. You will start seeing human trafficking. You will start seeing people pushing the boundaries of things that shouldn't be acceptable. Because, believe it or not, the porn industry is a very heavily regulated industry where there are rules that you have to abide by if you want your film to be made. All that will be gone because it will be just the Wild West all over again, and you will struggle to stop it. Just like back in the 1920s and 30s, the police and the federal agencies failed to stop the illegal alcohol trade. But you know what? Don't come crying to me if you do it and then find this very situation happening. Hate to say we told you so. I've been going on for quite a while now, but I'll end it soon. But I just want to add that because this situation has blown up, because this conversation has been gathering steam, the more extremist elements have decided to weigh in. So you will see occasionally, I guess you would call them alt-righters, weighing in saying how, oh, people like E. Michael Jones say it's a tool for societal control. I mean, I don't know how porn can control human beings. I don't know. But regardless, that's what he believes. Some of them think that it's the Jews that have created pornography in the Western world and have spread it all across the internet in the hopes of controlling the Goyim, even though the porn industry is run almost entirely by women who aren't Jews. The men tend to be Jews, at least the ones who aren't black or Asian or Hispanic, but the women, not. They tend to be, I guess, what you would call in America, Caucasian. That doesn't work as an excuse either because it's not the Jews who run the pornographic industry. These people will start jumping on it and then they will start trying to take a hold of the conversation. Do you want that, tradcons? Do you want that? Do you want these people speaking for you and co-opting your movement? No, you don't. We don't want it either. But to be honest, you, the SJWs, the alt-right, what's the difference, really? You're all authoritarians who all should be ejected from society. Who should all be ejected. Seriously, guys, just eject these people. They are net negatives to society. We don't need them. I've had it with them. Seriously, guys, I've had enough of this. Eject the retrograde right.